Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Stutzman and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. Invasive species are organisms that are not native to a particular area, which can range from weeds to trees to insects. They cause great economic and environmental harm to the region and require management from our local government organizations and nonprofits. With me today to discuss the spotted lanternfly and tree of heaven is Steve Laskowski, DCNR Erie County Forester, and Tom Cermak, PAC Grant Coastal Outreach Specialist. So again, joining our show first here is Steve from the DCNR. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Well, I know you and I have talked a lot about the impending complications of invasive species, and particularly the spotted lanternfly and the tree of heaven. So what are, if you don't know what those two things are, they sound really sweet.
They do.
But they are not.
No.
So, okay, so let's talk about what is the spotted lanternfly and the tree of heaven. What do they look like? What are they?
So spotted lanternfly is an invasive plant hopper insect that's native to Southeast Asia and China. Its Latin name is Lycorma delicatata, which means luxurious lamp. Mm-hmm. It's very colorful and pretty, but it's anything but luxurious. And it was first detected in southeastern Pennsylvania in 2014. It was accidentally introduced, and it was believed to have come from a shipment of stone from China. The adult spotted lanternfly are about an inch long, and they have what's called one life cycle per year. So they go through these 4 immature stages before becoming an adult, and they're called instar stages. And the first through the 4th instar stage can last anywhere from May through July. And they develop black with white spots when they're in the 1st through the 3rd instar, so they're very, very noticeable once you get to recognize them. And then in the 4th instar, they suddenly change into red with white spots. So again, they're, like the Latin name insists, very colorful. The adults, which are emerging in July through December, have what's called black spot pinkish tan wings, so that's one identification feature over their back, and they have a very distinctive brick-like pattern on the back end of their wings. So there's a lot of things with this insect that makes it colorful, makes it pretty, but is very easy to identify once you get used to seeing it, which hopefully we won't.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. Have we spotted the spotted lanternfly in Erie County yet?
Not yet,
okay.
And I'll touch on that in a little bit.
Okay.
So it's not found in Erie yet, but it is trending this direction.
Okay, and then the tree of heaven. Sounds great.
Yes.
What is that species of tree?
It's an invasive tree from China as well, and it was purposely introduced in the Philadelphia area in the 1700s as an ornamental plant. And later on, they found out that this plant quickly spread into many areas, specifically waste areas, disturbed areas, roadsides. It's highly aggressive, so it can grow in a lot of different locations. It's very adaptable. It's fast growing, and it seeds prolifically. So it has a lot of characteristics that invasive plants and invasive species have.
Sure, and so for these insects and the trees, they usually outcompete the native plants, insects, and trees.
Yes, yeah, and that is their main concern, is that they're displacing our native plants. Mm-hmm. In regards to the spotted lanternfly, they can harm our native plants and kill fruit crops. Again, I can touch on that in a little bit. But
sure.
Yeah, very destructive.
Okay, and can they be confused for other insects or trees? Do they look like other things?
Yes, so spotted lanternfly can look like different types of moths and clearwings. So spongy moth is something that we deal with. It's another non-native insect. It's found in Erie County. But it looks like that. It can look like a tiger moth is another example. And then with tree of heaven, sumac is commonly confused, black locust, hickory. So there are all these pinnately compound leaves that tree of heaven has, mm-hmm. But there are minute differences. Again, once you realize you can inspect and control them, identify them accordingly. So tree of heaven has 2 glandular dots on the base of the leaf, and it has a smooth leaf margin. So that's one way to tell the difference between tree of heaven versus other pinnately compound native plants, again like sumac and hickory and even black walnut. Also with Tree of Heaven, on their stems they have a V-shaped leaf scar, and it's very large and very distinct. So that's another really easy identification feature, particularly in the wintertime when those leaves drop off, those pinnately compound leaves, it shows that leaf scar. So that's another easy identification feature.
Okay, and what does the spotted lanternfly eat? What's it targeting?
It goes after grapes, fruit crops, ornamental trees, hundreds of different plant species. And that's the concern across Pennsylvania is our agricultural industry and what it's already been doing in Pennsylvania since 2014, and the concern in Erie County with the amount of grapes that we have in the eastern portions and the western portions of the county, fruit trees, all of these can be negatively and severely impacted by the spotted lanternfly.
And of course we have, rich vineyards out in the Northeast area growing all of our grapes, for all of those wineries that are out there. So it's also an economic concern then
Very much
for that
so.
area.
There's been many different estimates, but $324 million expected loss. And so this doesn't just impact our agricultural industry, it can impact the horticultural industry, the forest product industry in regards to moving forest products, because again, spotted lanternfly, it lays eggs, and these eggs can be laid in many locations anywhere outside. So they don't just lay eggs on trees. They can lay eggs on cars, tires, roofs, really any outdoor surface, grills. So that's the concern, is that they move very easily, and that's why they've been spreading so quickly.
Oh gosh, okay, so speaking of moving and spreading quickly, where are they now and how do we prevent them from getting here?
So spotted lanternfly is in 45 counties as of March 2022 in Pennsylvania. It again is not yet found in Erie County, but it is trending this direction. Tree of Heaven has been in Pennsylvania since the 1700s, so it's been spreading for some time and is in Erie County. It's more commonly found in the city of Erie and also the northwestern portion and northeastern portions of the county. But it's in more places than we really know.
Okay, and does the Tree of Heaven and the spotted lanternfly, do they have a connection to each other?
They sure do.
Okay.
So spotted lanternfly uses Tree of Heaven as a host species. So it seeks it out as part of its life cycle. And that's the concern with both of these, is that where you have spotted Tree of Heaven, you can also have spotted lanternfly infestations rather easily. Now they lay eggs on many different plants and structures. They feed on many different things, but they particularly like Tree of Heaven.
Okay, so if we're a resident or a viewer of the show and we're having trouble identifying a tree in our backyard, we think it may be a Tree of Heaven, or we think we may have seen a spotted lanternfly. One, how do we go about validating our concerns? And then two, what steps can then be taken to control it if you do find it?
Yeah, so there's many ways to report this, both Tree of Heaven and spotted lanternfly. So the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture is in charge of the surveys, public reporting, and the quarantines involved with spotted lanternfly, and they would be the first agency to contact. If you're unsure of what it looks like, you can contact me as a service forester. I'd be more than happy to come out and help identify and then do the proper reporting procedures. And there's also many apps out there, phone apps that people can use that are very accurate, scary accurate, to help identify both insect and plant species.
Okay, if we have this in our backyard, should we remove it now? Is that the best thing to do?
It is, especially with spotted lanternfly, the first thing to do would be to report it and to report it to the Department of Agriculture. With Tree of Heaven, you can go about it many ways. So there's mechanical treatments, so you can use things like brush saws and chainsaws to mechanically control it. That involves a lot of persistent efforts without the use of herbicides, and constant attention, because it does stump sprout quite frequently after the main stem would die.
Oh wow, really?
Yes, yeah, it comes back very aggressively from the root system. Again, it's an invasive species, so it is very adaptable and very, very hardy.
Wow. So it's going to hold on tight.
Yes.
How has this kept you busy?
So spotted lanternfly in the county, again, it's not here yet, but really it's the public education and outreach, and that's the main thing that we're trying to push, is to get residents aware of this problem, so when it does come here, we're more apt to battle it properly.
And Steve, how do viewers and residents get in touch with you?
They can contact me at my Waterford office at 796-6787. They can contact our main district office in Warren, Pennsylvania, and can contact me accordingly through there as well.
Okay, and do you work only on public lands or on private too?
I work for Erie County, so I'm available for all residents of the county to assist accordingly.
Wonderful. Well, Steve, thank you so much for being here. Is there any one last tip or some takeaway message you want to leave our residents with?
Early detection, rapid response. So if you can get educated, Penn State Extension, the Department of Agriculture has so many fantastic resources for residents to look into. And I urge people to do that. It's not here, but get aware of the problem so we can take appropriate action.
Thank you so much for being here, Steve.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it.
Steve from the DCNR just stressed to us about early detection and rapid response for these invasive species. So next on our show, we have Tom Cermak from the Pennsylvania Sea Grant, who is going to talk to us about what a local organization, the Pennsylvania Sea Grant, can do to help control some of these invasive species that really are threatening our local environment. So thank you, Tom, for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Again, what is or who is the Pennsylvania Sea Grant?
Pennsylvania Sea Grant is one of 34 programs throughout the United States. Every state that has either ocean or Great Lakes coast has a Sea Grant program. The programs are generally affiliated with that state's land grant institution. In Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Sea Grant program is a partnership between Penn State University, NOAA, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And you are involved in a group, LEWCWMA, the Lake Erie Watershed Cooperative Weed Management Area. Tell us what work you're doing with them.
The Lake Erie Watershed Cooperative Weed Management Area was established in 2012. The primary goal of the Cooperative Weed Management Area was to establish or promote discussions amongst natural resource managers and private landowners who are actively involved or have an interest in invasive species management throughout the Pennsylvania Lake Erie watershed. Once the communication was established and increased, we looked to promote collaboration and try to get everybody rowing together to combat these invasives.
Sure. So what kind of projects have you completed or are underway to help combat the weeds and invasive species we have in our area?
Each year we host a couple of meetings for partnering organizations to get together and discuss what our annual priorities are, how we'd like to address upcoming concerns and the concerns that have been identified within our 5-year plan. And then we work to implement these recommendations throughout the course of each management season. Generally, each year we conduct invasive plant inventories, although the target species might change as different concerns come to light. We take the information collected, share it with natural resource managers, develop regional invasive species management plans, and then look to implement these plans through various forms of vegetation control.
And what kind of invasive species have you worked on in particular?
Depending on the grant's priorities, a lot of the work we do is grant funded. Some of the work is targeted for riparian areas along stream corridors, wetlands, or upland areas. So the species vary generally by the location. The wetland areas, we generally see a lot of cattail and Phragmites. The upland areas, we see a lot of honeysuckle, privet, barberry, and multiflora rose. And then those edge areas, we kind of see a mix of everything.
Mm-hmm. And are any efforts now being shifted to focus on the spotted lanternfly and the tree of heaven? And does your work with Penn State then collaborate with the work being done with the DCNR?
Yes. So to proactively get ahead of the spotted lanternfly issue, the Cooperative Weed Management Area established a spotted lanternfly and tree of heaven working group. So many of the individuals that participate in the Cooperative Weed Management Area each year, in addition to the vegetative management professionals, we also pulled in some folks that specialize in the management or the education and outreach efforts related to spotted lanternfly. So having everybody at the same table and really fostering those discussions, we were looking to kind of get ahead of this issue and have a plan of attack for if and when it arrives, we will be better prepared.
And how can the general public, how can they be prepared? Because I know you want to educate them.
Yes, so we try to get the best and most relevant information out to our stakeholders so that they are able to identify both spotted lanternfly and tree of heaven. In addition to identifying those species, knowing how it's the best way to manage tree of heaven. And then for trying to get citizen scientists involved, project partners, the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program, they're hosting an event this summer where citizen scientists can log on to the event website, work through an interactive map, claim a survey square, and then during the course of the 2020 management season, they will visit that site 2 to 3 times and report their information back to the Pennsylvania IMAP Invasive Program. The IMAP Invasive Program is managed by the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, and it provides an opportunity for both resource managers and citizens to collect invasive species distributional data and share it. Once that information is uploaded, it gives resource managers the ability to better see the distribution of both tree of heaven and spotted lanternfly throughout the state.
And who can be a citizen scientist? How do we become, somebody that can help?
Anyone with an interest in participating can become a citizen scientist and contribute to this effort. Just take the time, check out the website, the link will be provided. And if it sounds like it's something that you would be interested in participating in, I encourage it.
Okay, and with the research, I know you do a lot of research in the field, and then you use that research then to educate. What findings and what information, what have you learned, that you want to share with our viewers about the spotted lanternfly, the tree of heaven, or any other invasive species you've worked with?
Beginning early in 2022, as a result of our work with the spotted lanternfly and tree of heaven working group, we actually took the time to go out in the field in teams of 2 and see what the distribution of tree of heaven throughout the Lake Erie watershed even looked like. It wasn't a species that we really focused a lot on previously, so we did a lot of car surveys, looking at those areas that are typically the most disturbed sites, your road right-of-ways, your railroad right-of-ways, and we found that it's in isolated patches. The most prevalent locations were adjacent to railroad tracks. The road right-of-ways looked pretty clean, but once you've seen it and you've learned to identify it, it sticks right out. So I feel like if you take the time and learn how to identify a tree of heaven, when you see it, you'll know it.
And then you want people to report it?
Yes. If you could please report all your findings to the IMAP Invasives website, we'd greatly appreciate it.
And are you working toward any partnerships with, railroad companies, or if you found it on private land or public land, are you forming those relationships to help get that removed?
Yep, so we've been working with state resource managers. A lot of them are participants in the CWMA and on the Spotted Lanternfly and Tree of Heaven group. And then we've been working to establish relationships with both private landowners to provide the education and hopefully get everybody working towards successful management of these species.
Yeah, and where can, again, just one more time, because I know we've listed it throughout the show, where can our viewers learn more information about, again, the spotted lanternfly, tree of heaven, or other species?
There are a lot of great resources out there. Penn State Extension has great resources. DCNR has some phenomenal resources as well. That information regarding the citizen science survey effort can be found on the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy website and the IMAP Invasives Pennsylvania website.
Okay. Is there any last message you want to leave our viewers with about the work that you've conducted over the years?
It's great to see the interest growing in invasive species management throughout the region. There's been a lot of great work going towards education and outreach over the years, and I really think that that knowledge base is growing and people are more likely to proactively address these issues now.
Okay, and so how do we get in touch with you at the PAC grant?
I can be reached at tjc29@psu.edu, and my phone number and our program information is located on our website.
You have a wonderful website, so I wanted to really turn people to visit that website, to educate themselves, to learn more. So Tom, I want to thank you so much for being here and bringing this to our attention, and hopefully it's something that we can all get ahead of and control before it really affects our area.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers, again, this is something that the tree of heaven and the spotted lanternfly, you might not have heard of this before, but we really want to educate you and have you know what these things look like, identify them, and report them. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.